up, y'all? We have a couple of rows here that are done, and we need to get them flipped and prepped for new flowers. So we're going to show you how we do that today mid-season. And if you do enjoy the video, please hit that subscribe button. Let's get started. All right, y'all. Today we're flipping a couple rows in our annual beds to do a last planting of zinnias for the year. And we'll show you guys how we flip a row. So this is another row that we're gonna flip today. And you can see the first thing we gotta do is pull up the fabric staples that we have in each one. So we have a couple of rows overlapping. So this row right here you see is like a middle, so it's in between two production rows. So we just lift up the fabric and remove the staples from each row around it, and we'll get the fabric pulled up and we'll head on to our next step. Get the fabric pulled up, which can be a pain in the butt with the grass, but we've mowed and weed eated the grass down as low as we really could. All right, y'all. So we have our fabric pulled up, and I'm going to show you what the ground looks like underneath, because I think this is kind of important to show as far as soil management. So let me flip the camera around here. So we have our fabric pulled up, and you can see where our walkways are pretty darn cracked. Once our flowers start blooming, we stop irrigating. So we pretty much don't do any irrigation once the flowers start blooming, because we know that we're only gonna get a few weeks of harvesting out of them, and it's just realistically gonna be a waste of water, and we just depend on rain and the weather. But these couple of rows have been sitting a little bit after that with no irrigation, so you see how they're kind of cracked underneath, especially in the walkway. They look pretty all right in the actual growing row. But I'm gonna add some compost to it before we actually do any tilling. And this is the compost that I'm using. We've had our local tree service guy. He delivers his wood chips, and he's been doing this for quite a long time now. So this compost finally is usable. You know, the bark pieces are breaking down really wonderfully. And this is probably about 7 years old, so he's been delivering for a long time. There's a few chunks in here, but that's not a big deal. But it takes a long time to break down tree mulch. So 7 years, we're finally ready to start using some of the stuff that we first collected. We're super lazy about going back there and turning it. We just dump it and let it sit. We just don't have time to manage a 200-foot windrow of tree mulch. So we just let it degrade naturally. I suppose if you turn it, I think you can like start using it in 4 or 5 years, but whatever. It's been sitting and it's beautiful, ready to use. So I'm gonna get the spread on this garden. Now that we have our compost in, we're ready to get this bed tilled up and ready to put the fabric back on. So before we till, I always check the tiller, because I'm super rough, and inevitably I always have tines broken that I need to repair. And I do. This one right here, I have one right here, and this one right here that I gotta hammer out. So I'm gonna get these fixed. I break tines so often that I have permanent wrenches on the tractor and a bag of bolts, because pretty much every time I till, I break a tine. So let me get this fixed and then we'll get it tilled. Normally I use lock washers with these, but I ran out, so don't judge. So next we're going to do this row in between a couple of rows. We have everything set up, kind of designed around the width of our tractor, which is 55 inches, and our tiller. So now we'll get this one tilled up and get the fabric back on, and we'll be ready to plant. And our last step is getting the fabric put back down on top of the freshly tilled soil to start getting everything planted. One of the things you guys may have noticed, or lack thereof, is no drip irrigation. We quit using drip irrigation a couple of years ago. It was just absolutely a pain in the behind and ridiculous for us to use on a larger scale. Other people use it just fine. It just doesn't work for us. So we will overhead water these in until they're established, and then we pretty much let nature take its course. You know, as you can see, we have beautiful gardens with flowers, so we seem to be doing okay with this method. And I'll show you guys what we actually do use for irrigation rather than drip. And that's it. I don't know if you can see them right there, but those are whirlybird heads. They channel the water out in a drop, rather like, you know, the normal yard the normal yard sprinkler that puts out a lot of mist and waste that flies away. These are designed to actually distribute the water in more of a drop-like fashion, so there's very little, if any. Actually, we never really see any mist flying away. It's all drops being put right into the ground where we need it. So this is what we've leaned on rather than drip irrigation, and it's been amazing. We haven't used any more water than we have before, and our plants still produce like crazy. And there you have it, a couple of new rows ready to plant. And that's it. That's our process on how we flip a row mid-season. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions, definitely leave them down in the comments. We'll be happy to answer. We'll see you guys next time.